Um, I teach piano and a lot, obviously, and a lot of my students are, you could say, non-traditional students, students that are a lot less focused on like classical programs, a lot more focused on like playing popular music or just playing for fun, or they come from a background where like they have learned off of YouTube tutorials for a year and nothing else, and then they're like, you know what, I want to learn something else. And so really this method that I've created, it's just it's just like it's specifically designed for my kind of student. So um, so this is day 2 of this boot camp that I'm doing. So I'll do like a little recap on what we've done so far, just so that you're not completely lost. Although a lot of the concepts that I go over, you don't really need to know what came before so much. Some of them, yes, but in that case, I will review more. But first, I want to know, and you can just type in the chat box if you were here yesterday. Go ahead and let me know if you tried anything with your students yesterday, if you taught yesterday. And then after today's session, one of the assignments that I'd like for you to do is take just one thing that you picked up today. And I'm sure that some of the things we're going to go over, you already know. It's my method isn't completely innovative. Some of the stuff in there is like, yeah, I've heard that before. And then some of the stuff is new. So I want you to take one of the new things that you've learned and try it with your student. And then just the next day, let me know how it went. So, quick overview, just so you get the idea. Let me send over again. So, for anyone who didn't have it, I'm going to put into the chat box this overview, if I can get a handle on it. Okay, I'm going to send this sheet that I created. This is the outline. So check your chat for this sheet. This is an overview of just level 1, which is what we're going over this week. We're not going over the whole method. There's 6 levels in the method, and this is just level 1. And on this sheet, you'll notice that, let me zoom in a little bit. You'll notice on the left side, this is how I would introduce these concepts in order. And on the right side, this is the concepts broken down into categories, so you can see within each category what the progression is of concepts a little bit more clearly. And so there are 5 categories. There's feel, hear, read, create, and play. And all of the feel concepts are strictly about technique, and not technique as in scales and arpeggios, but technique as in literally what am I doing with my body. And so all the hear concepts are very focused on the goal of learning pieces by ear, and all of the read concepts are a little bit more designed for sight reading in particular, not like learning a piece of music, but more specifically, what do I do if I get a piece for the first time? And so, and then the create concepts are all the, well, creative stuff like improvising and composing. It's basically practical theory. And then the play concepts are basically practice concepts. And so, so that your student doesn't go home and be like, I don't know what to do this week. I sat down at the piano and my mind was blank. And so it's practice tips. And really all of these concepts are, the way that I use this in my own studio is pretty much I do like 5 minutes of reviewing an old concept, 5 minutes of introducing a new concept, and then the rest of the lesson is anything else you want to do. And so if you've got other programs, festivals, things you need to work on, then you've got plenty of time to do it. And so now at the same time, I did want to mention, though, something I didn't mention yesterday, which I kind of want to make more clear, is that all of these concepts are really flexible. And so you can introduce them separately. You can work on them separately in a separate exercise. But they also, a lot of these can be introduced in the context of a piece that they're already working on. So if you're working on, Beethoven Moonlight Sonata or whatever, um, and you're, let me just pick a random one, like, I mean, this is merely meant for beginners, but the low, high, soft, loud. Okay, you can play a recording of Moonlight Sonata and simply, ask your student, is it low, is it high, is it soft, is it loud, So these concepts can be introduced in the context of your other pieces, is kind of what I'm trying to get at. But anyway, so almost done with the review, and then we get to the fun stuff. And so, quick review, the first two concepts we went over in feel were body parts, geography, and finger numbers. That was the first concept. Just going over, especially if they're a younger age, what's the parts of the body, and because they might not even know the names of those, what's the piano look like, let's explore it, that kind of thing. And then finger numbers, games to establish that. Steady beat is something that I think is felt more than heard, and so we did things like marching or dancing, things like that. Unit in the here for unit 1. Oh, there's 10 units, so there's 50 concepts, so we got a lot to get through. But so here, which is about learning by ear, right? The first thing we went over is establishing low and high versus soft and loud, and also doing slides. So it's like a multi thing. And so those concepts, low and high can often be, especially with younger students, low and high can often be confused with soft and loud. And so I draw the sounds out of them. I make them make sounds. Like I think it was Angela. I made her make oh no, it wasn't Angela. It was Tony. I made him make a cow sound, and he went moo. So I said, oh, that's a low and a soft sound, and so it's tying it to sounds that they already know. And then the second here concept was jam style improv with hands together, which is a little bit more complicated, but long story short, it's you set a metronome to beat one. If anything, if I'm going too quick, don't worry about it. This is just review. So like, and I'm gonna post a replay of yesterday's session where I go over it more in detail. I just want to kind of catch you up a little bit. So jam style improv is you set a metronome to beat one, and you choose like 4 notes or so, and on beat 1, 1, 2, 3, you change to the next note, 2, 3, and change. And then you work up to the idea of changing the rhythm inside of that measure, like this. And just making sure the only rule is like, okay, you got to get the right pitch and you got to change on time. Just check. Chris, is your original sound turned on? Yeah, hold on. Yes, it is turned on. That's weird. Is my audio input up? Yes, it is. That's also weird. Maybe I'll turn the volume up, let's see, of my keyboard. Can you hear it a little better now? Is that a little better? Okay, cool. So, let's go back and Thank you for pointing that out. And so, going on, so that's jam style improv, which is super fun and very, very practical. Read is, so the read, I just remember my reading section is going to, because this method is really, really heavily not focused on reading. So contrary to every other method that exists. And so the reading portion is going to move a little slower than you're used to, but it's kinder to those kinds of students who prefer to learn the way of the YouTube, you could say. And so the first read concept, and these are all things, I got a whiteboard that I love using. You can do it on white paper, is to draw out a diagram of 2 and 3 black keys. You can make up a little song for them, and draw the note. When you do write the finger numbers out, write it higher and lower. so that'll be easy to read. You've probably seen something like that in method books before. It's off-staff notation. Sophedge is a little trickier. Sophedge is my way of saying it's letters. It's just letters, but I call it sophedge because it's letters that you can sing. And so they're still reading letters. They're still reading C, D, E, and you can even write C, D, E on the board or on your paper. But when they sing it, when they are reading it, sight singing it, if you will, they will sing out loud, not C, D, E, but they'll sing Sa, Da, Ya. And so every white key, you add an ah to the sound. A is a weird one. A becomes la because you can't go ah. And so becomes la. I got that L from alpha. And so if you make it sharp, then the vowel sound becomes A. If you make it flat, the vowel sound becomes O. So be sa, se, da, de, ya, fa, fe, ja, and so on. And so that's sophedge in a nutshell. Create is simple scales, and the simple scale, so the easy scales to improvise with are your, black keys, which sounds great with pedal. You've got white keys, which are obviously really easy to understand. You just don't play any black keys and you're safe. And then you have the whole tone and the whole step and half step scales, which are very crucial to harmony. To starting to understand those relationships. So easy to improvise with too. And then one note improvising is the next create concept, and that is the complete opposite. So instead of using a whole scale, we're focusing on one single note. What can you do with one note? If you can make one note interesting, you can make anything interesting. And so that's that concept. So, play around with that idea. And then the last thing I want to review, and then we can get to the new stuff, is practice charts. It's like, I know some people already do this kind of thing, where they give their students practice sheets and they put it in a binder and stuff like that. I've got my own that are catered to this particular kind of method. And if you want that, feel free to send me a message, and I'll get back to you on that. And then the starting spots is another practice technique, and I'm sure you all know this, but it's great to directly address it, which is don't just start at the beginning of the piece. Start at different spots. It helps with fixing problems. It helps with memory, all that kind of stuff. So, oh darn, there was something I wanted to send. So maybe I'll think of it later. Okay, so that was all the review from the last time. Oh yeah, and I remember what I had to say. So if you have any questions, feel free to type it along the way. If you have any questions, feel free to type it into the chat, and then I'm gonna get to that at the end of the session. I just know that it can be hard to remember your question after 50 minutes of presentation. So feel free to put that in the chat. That's one of the benefits of Zoom, right? You don't have to remember your question. So go ahead and put that in the chat box if you have any questions. All right, fun stuff. Let's go. And so this is day 2, unit 3 out of 10 units in level 1. And this is assuming that the student is starting off clean slate, really hasn't done anything. And we're trying to keep them from quitting lessons and going to YouTube. And so, so resting position, feel. This is really important. This is a very important part of my method in feeling. And this is a big difference in the way that I learned about this concept versus the way I teach this concept, which is where a lot of us are taught to sit tall, right? And when we're playing, keep that tall position. But you might see that if you ever watch professional pianists and concert, whatever, at competitions, they're doing all this stuff. moving their bodies all over the place. So why are we taught to sit tall in our lessons? And so I've come to the conclusion that this it's not supposed to be you're not supposed to be sitting tall all the time. It's just a resting position. It's the most comfortable position with the least amount of tension. And so you might notice when you watch these pianists play, they're moving all around, but a lot of the time, when the phrase comes to a rest, so does their body, and they come back to this tall position. And so I try and, when I teach sitting tall, really I say, instead of saying sit tall, I say, all right, back to resting position. And so, awareness. Yeah, and so what this does when you are moving around, it does a few things. It keeps your brain aware of what your body's doing. I don't know if you've ever sitting in the same position for too long, but I get like stiff and I forget that my muscles exist basically. And so when I move around, it helps remind me that all of these muscles are exist. And then on top of that, expression. It helps you to it tricks the brain into helping with expression because the tension often correlates to the tension the good tension, as I write down here, often correlates to, you can't play with zero tension, it's impossible. And so the good tension, it correlates to the expressive choices that you make. And so, if I want to get louder, as I lean in, I feel more and more tense in my body, but not in a bad way. It's not affecting my playing, and so I want to hear that tension in the music when I do that. Otherwise, I just have to do it all in my head, which is a little harder. It's a little harder to do. It takes a lot more focus. And then on top of that, when you do move around in between resting positions, it's also just fun for your audience to watch too. It gives them something to connect the music to. So, oh, and then weight, of course. So like, if you're always in the same place and you play, for example, some notes in the higher end of the piano, your weight isn't all the way on that note. If you lean over a little bit, you put a little bit more weight onto that note. So the moving around the body helps with weight distribution also. And as I'm like trying these things, as I'm like giving this presentation, if you're at your piano, I'd really recommend that you like try some of these things. Just so that you kind of are get some hands-on experience. I might try. Yeah, let's go on. With some of these concepts, I'm going to pick on some of you. So, but for now, all right, I match, you match. Let's go to the next here concept, and not literally matches. Although I just thought it was fun to pick a match, an image with matches. We're not lighting our piano on fire. Don't worry. Although sometimes I wish that so I match, you match. This is a hearing concept, and one of the most basic hearing concepts, obviously, this is level one, and we are assuming that we're working with a kid that is tone deaf, and I have worked with several students that cannot match pitch. It's just like they when they first start with me, I should say, and it is. I just read the comment. I get a lot of students that like really have struggle with matching pitch, and so to overcome this issue, one of the first things I do is instead of asking them to match my pitch, I will match their pitch. And what this does is it establishes confidence in their singing. So like. Let's see. Okay, so like let's well, Angela, you're first on my screen here. So let's just can you would you mind being a little sample student again?
Sure.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna sing a note, and you're gonna pretend to be a tone deaf student. Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna sing a note, and I want you to match my pitch, but like, fail. And so, all right, all right. So,
You
match my
always
pitch.
make me sing, but it's okay.
Yeah. Well, you got a great
All
voice. So, but I want you to pretend to have a bad voice. And so, you ready?
right.
All right. So, match my pitch. Do.
Do,
Okay. Good. So, wait. You
do,
actually.
do,
Okay. Hey. All right. So, what you sang right here was this note. Can you sing that again?
do.
Hey, excellent. There you go. So you were able to hold that same note. And so, and now what we do, once you find that note that they sang, then move it a small distance. All right, you sang this note. Can you move your voice up just a little bit and sing this one? All right, that's this one. All right, now move it up a little bit. Oh, are you muted? Oh, you muted
Oh,
yourself.
sorry. I was singing that whole time. I muted it. I
Oh, all
accidentally.
right, all right. So
I
here,
kind of slid up to it.
there you go, exactly. And so usually they're capable of doing this. Once you find that first note that they sang, they're like, "All right, I can do this." And then then they focus harder. And that's a big thing is like they once they have that little bit of confidence that they can match pitch, they try harder to match the pitch. Um, and so now it's important to keep in mind that range and age. Now, um, when they are younger, their range is usually I say usually because I've had some like opera stars that are like 5 years old, and but usually their range is pretty small, and I would say generally speaking, the most comfortable range that I've noticed for most students at like younger ages is D. Oh, hold on. I just realized I'm not connected. 1 second. And there we go. So usually they can reach anywhere from D above middle C to A. That's usually a pretty comfortable range for younger students. So I would say, generally speaking, you want to try and stick to that range. Don't do something crazy like do 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 do. They won't be able to do it. They literally can't get that low sometimes. And so keep it in that range. And then, as they get older, obviously their voices are changing. So if you get a beginner student that is older, then one of the things you might want to do, if you go back to doing a slide, right? Have them do a slide, ooh-wee. And when they do that slide, usually they go as low as they can go and as high as they can go. And so listen to their slide to help establish, like, okay, they can go this low. Ooh, okay, that's about where they, ooh-wee. That's where I stopped, right? So they got A to C, for example, so that's comfortable. All right, so I match you. Thank you, Angela. Excellent student as always, you're an excellent bad student, and so.
Yeah, I don't know how to take that, but
Okay.
anytime.
Yeah. So, all right. So then, with reading, the concept in Unit 3, I think we're in still. So, concept in Unit 3 for read. Well, the last thing that we covered was well, we did the two black keys, right? We did some reading with, we drew a diagram. We did the group of two, group of three black keys, and right hand, left hand, and then we also did we did an intro to solfege. Now we are kind of, you could say, combining those two ideas, and with establishing these two groups, CDE and FGAB. So CDE is surrounding what two keys? It's surrounding the two black keys that we went over before. FGAB is surrounding the group of three black keys. And so Carol is coming in. And so now I would probably introduce them like separately, and you could say different pieces. And again, it can be a piece that exists, or it can be just a made up piece. the song that I keep coming back to is like Fight Song, which is an easy one, right? This is my fight song. Or Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. There's a lot of songs that you can do with three notes. Because if you like the way it looks that much, Justin Bieber. So if you want to just kind of pick and choose songs, there are songs out there that use these four keys. With with three keys, with FGAB, I think it's great to improvise with those. So because it creates this mystery kind of sound. Now, of course, the whole idea here is about reading, though, right? So, read the letters. You can compose with these. You can use pedal if you want because they are whole steps. But let me do a new share. Okay, so let's do CDE, and let's just say I'm gonna draw it out instead of type it. C D E space E D C. All right, so I just created a short piece for you, very very short piece, and instead of singing letters like that, we're gonna sing sa da ya da sa. And I just want you can keep on mute, but can you sing with me for a second? And we're gonna ready sing sa da ya da sa. Now, of course, we just sang it, right? We're reading the letters, but I also want you to play it. Now, if you're at a piano, let's try playing it now. So it'll be like sa da. Yeah, we're gonna play and sing at the same time. 3, 2, 1, go. Sa da ya da sa. Yeah, good. And this is just a little example of reading and focusing on these three letters. Of course, you can just play a game and just say, all right, find a group of two black keys. Hey, cool. All right, play me the white keys that are around that. Okay, cool. Find another group of two black keys. All right, play the keys that are around there. And so obviously it's not too much about the reading yet, but knowing this information is going to help a lot with the reading in the future. So, all right, back to the main screen. And, all right, is there anything I missed here? All right, yeah, so it's off-staff notation. It's your reference to the black keys, write letters, sing, solfege, yeah, compose. Yeah, this is an easy way for students to compose and write down their composition because they don't know notation yet. But if they want to write something down, sure, they can write letters at this point. And like I said, bonus pedal. If you just use one of these groups alone, pedal sounds pretty decent as long as you are on the higher range of the piano. If you play it down low, it's not as clean. All right, and then let me just check where we're at. Okay, yeah, I think we gotta move a little faster. So, but that's okay. It's all your fault that we're going slow. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So, all right, great. Short stories. So again, create is about, you could say practical theory, and the theory that we're addressing here really is form. And so and stories, oftentimes they imitate form that we know. And so when I create a short story with my students, and honestly, you don't even have to play the story. You can just practice creating a story. And then if you want to take it to the piano, then sure, take it to the piano. But the art of storytelling is step one. And so if you can't tell a story, then it's going to be pretty hard for you to improvise a piece, I would say. And so what I do with them is I establish that the story has to have 3 or 4 parts. And so, let's see. Chester Copperpot. I just saw that. I wonder where that came from. Hey, Copperpot, can we make a story together?
Let's do it.
All right. So, generally, well, let's keep it open ended first. What's your story going to be about? What's the main topic?
Oh man. Okay. And like how can it be? It can be as whatever I want, right?
Yeah, it could be imaginary, it could be real, it could be something that happened today, whatever it is.
Oh man, I'm searching for some treasure.
Oh, you're searching for some treasure. Okay, excellent topic for a story. Now let's break that into, let's do something simple. Let's break it into three parts. All right, so part one is one sentence. What's part one?
I
How
need
does
some money.
You need some money. So in other words, if we took that into if we turn that into an action, we would try and steer this in the direction of actions. And so
Okay.
you looked at your bank account, right? And you're like, oh man. So, right? And so then, okay, part two.
In terms of action.
Yeah,
Okay. I found a treasure map, and we're on the adventure.
you're on the adventure. Good. You found the treasure map and you're on the adventure. And
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah, good. So, oh no, my bank
Like
account.
all right. How about we do this in the way of like not bank account. Let's just say like okay, found a map, buried treasure. I want to go find it, and so it's like you're kind of like preparing for the journey in stage one. Stage two, you get to stage two, and then
Sure.
there's all these traps along the way, right? There's like obstacles that you have
Okay,
to.
yeah, yeah. So, okay, so you're
Yep.
preparing for the trip. Step
Yep.
two is you're running into obstacles,
Yep.
right? And then step three, what's part three of the story? I know it's kind of hard to wrap up a story in three parts, but
It's the return. You know, you got you achieved what you want, and you can return home
yeah, good.
victorious.
You got what you want, you can return home. And so notice that, even in this three-part story, there's almost a sense of form here. We've got something that's a little bit more relaxing. The preparation, you're at home, you're relaxing, but we're moving towards something. Then you got the drama, which is like we're moving around and, there's all this crazy stuff happening. And then you return home and you're relaxing again, but with a slightly different feeling this time because you're satisfied. So it's like A, B, A prime. And so you've got this rounded form that would typically happen in music anyway. And so now, when you're with a excellent story, Chester, and and so now younger students, I love drawing. I love drawing their story. It takes a little more time to draw the story out, but they really enjoy doing it. So and lessons are supposed to be fun. So draw away. And you might be thinking, yeah, but they're going to take an hour to draw it. No, usually they draw something really simple. Usually it's like a stick figure and something else, so it doesn't take too much time. So now, what do we do if you do actually take this to the piano? Story turns into music very easily, and of course you can use those scales that we just went over, which was the white key scales. You can use the black key scales. You can use the half step. You can use whole step. These are scales that they know that they can work with already. And so if we were like in one place, let's say resting, then I would say, okay, which one of these scales felt calm to me? The most calm one to me was the black keys only. But at the same time, we're uncomfortable a little bit. So maybe what I might do is I might throw in like a wrong note in there somewhere, right? Or I don't know, something like that. If you want it to still sound pretty, you might do just the bottom note, for example. But the point is, the story guides your decisions on what music you make. So um, cool. Next. Yeah, let's move it. So play, time limits. Remember, play is mostly about practice tips. Now, I know some of you are looking at this and like, yeah, but goals, not time. And yes, So obviously there's a big debate in the pedagogical field of like, no, we shouldn't be setting time limits for our students. We should be giving them goals to achieve. And I would say it's still good to give them the option, because I do have some students who thrive on um, time limits, who thrive on like, all right, I'm going to sit down at the piano for 5 minutes, and that just gets them in the right mindset to accomplish their goals. And so I this is why I still have it in the method. I still want to include it. But I do say warning goals. So even though you are giving this option of time limits, you still want to remind them that goals are ultimately more important. Um, Now, what you can do, if a parent is not helpful, set an alarm. Most kids have access to some kind of technology nowadays, and so an alarm is pretty easy to find. And so, you know, once they set that alarm, they know that like they can't leave the piano until that alarm goes off. And so, I think I said this already. It kind of helps some students with organization to set that time limit. It helps them to kind of like think, oh, I got to get some stuff done. It also, when you set a time limit, if you don't set a time limit, then it can feel, for some students, when they sit down at the piano, it can feel like forever. But when you set that time limit, it's like light at the end of the tunnel. They know that the end is coming, and they know that like their practice is gonna end at some point, and so they're not worried about like, oh, how long am I gonna be here? So that helps a lot. Now, if you haven't really gotten to the point where you have talked about goals yet, then what I tell my students is repetition is better than nothing at all. So, if you just sit down and you repeat, 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 at least you're playing something. And so, because if you're not at the piano at all, then how are you going to get better? So, that's time limits. All right, moving on. Day 2, which is today, and Unit 4, Level 1. Okay, so Unit 4, the next unit out of 10 units. And feel. All right, so we've talked about like where to sit, all that kind of stuff. And of course, next basic concept is hand shape. And hang aside bloom. I think I'm going to stop sharing so you can see me a little bit better. Um, yeah. Okay, so hopefully I'm the main screen. If I'm not the main screen, just kind of let me know. Um, but so let's see. All right, so hand shape. The big point I get across here is that we want to see, nice curved round hands. But one way to establish that is to stand up. So if you can stand up, go ahead and stand up, and hang your arm at your side. Just wiggle around, get loose, because you don't want to. Now that I'm telling you to stand up, you're probably focused very heavily on like how you're standing. So no need to be self-conscious. Just wiggle around, make sure you're loose. Now, when you're loose, I want you to just like put your mind on your hand for a second. Notice where your hand is, and notice the curve of your hand right now. You should notice that it curves very naturally at your side, and so when you put it on the piano, that is the curve that you want. And so you don't want to purposefully, I know there's some techniques out there that are like grab something, right? Oh, that's the curve that you should have. This is my coffee. And, yeah, that does almost put you in the right spot. But you know what it also does when you grab something is it makes all of your fingers tense. And so when it's at your side like this, it's no tension at all. It's the least amount of tension. So when you flop it onto the piano, if you were to swing it onto the piano and keep it there, hey, look, that's a nice relaxed curved hand right there. Now, one of the other cool tricks I learned was when I was in undergraduate school was to keep a fist and then slowly bloom out like a flower. That can be nice for some students. Bloom out, so that way they don't end up like overextending or anything like that. Another thing I like to do, again, these other techniques, the only problem is that they might encourage the unnecessary tension. The best one is just hanging out the side, but if it doesn't work, then there's these other ways. The other thing I like to do is have my students practice a very light pinch, and so when we pinch the lightly, when we pinch lightly, the that you have that nice curve. If you pinch too hard, what some students might end up doing is they might let that joint collapse, and so which is actually something that you might want to address. And so after they pinch, have them literally make this mistake of wiggling. So say, all right, pinch, but now let's wiggle. See if you can do that. All right, this is what you don't want. This is what you want. So now, and then you can take that to the piano. All right, show me what you don't want. And then, I'm going to just do this so you can see better. All right, and pop it out. All right, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And so that way when they get to the piano, they're more likely to do this. Now, I will say, I've watched videos of myself playing, and I fall victim to doing this sometimes. So, I'm a little bit of a hypocrite, but but generally speaking, when I play anything, I aim to keep all joints rounded at all times. All right, back to shading. Okay, and then, all right, next hearing concept is same or different. And honestly, you can do this with the big concept here. The bigger overarching concept here is get your students to recognize differences in what they're listening to. Now, when I introduce it at this level, usually the only thing I focus on is just a single note melody and pitch. And so, as an exercise, I'll do 5 notes. I'll do 5 notes. So like, all right, I'm gonna play a 5 note melody, and let's see. Lorna, you're going to be my practice student.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to play 5 notes, and here's the first way. You ready? This is one. It might be one. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'll play it again. Okay, I'm going to change one of those notes, and I want you to tell me which one did I change. Are you ready?
The second one.
2, exactly. Yeah, you got the right idea. Very simple exercise for you to do with your students. Good job, Lorna. And so, just getting them to recognize, what is different, because noticing differences is the easiest way to learn songs by ear. If I was doing, okay, I keep going back to fight song. You can do this with other pieces, but it's just a perfect one. So the fight song, it goes, this is my fight song, okay? Bring back my life song. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which numbers were different? It was 4 and 5. So, that just like makes it so much easier to learn pieces by ears, recognizing these differences. And then, of course, I asked you, Lorna, which one was different, and if they are quick enough, you could say, you can do a follow-up question and say, what was different about it? And a lot of the times they'll know, oh, it was higher than the last one. So if they can answer that, that's even better. And then this is just an order, listen to, so just like what we did, I had you listen to it, I had you identify it, and then you can ask them follow-up question, and then actually play it so you can see how that actually relates to, like, okay, what do I do with this information? Okay, moving on. So read, okay, and then read. So the next thing, this is really, really brand new to this. I literally thought of this like you could say a couple months ago. So so, hear me out and try it with your own students. But if you don't like it, don't worry about it. But I was thinking with my own students, I was thinking about this a lot, and I kind of want to start addressing the bottom number of meter before I address the top number of meter, which is really bold. And how I do this also, I don't instead of doing regular instead of naming the note names, I give them fake names. And so a quarter note would be ta. I mean, this is very similar to, you've probably heard of like ta, ti, ti, ta, that kind of thing, right? But this is a little bit different. The quarter note would be ta, eighth note would be te, 16th note would be ti, and half note to, a whole note tu. So if we had like a quarter note, it would be quarter note, half note would be ta, ta, to, ta, ta, to, just to give you an idea. Now, one fun thing that I do before I get into actually, yeah, we're doing okay on time. I'll hurry it up. Okay, so clear this. So something I might do for them, I'm going to draw out all of the symbols in a row from shortest to longest. This is something I have done, and it often, and it works out well usually. And it's just it's just an idea of again, before yesterday I said, one of the things I really try to establish from the beginning that is just that rhythms are relative. And so what I'll do with the student is I say, all right, we're going to write the numbers 1, 2, 4. And so you're going to pick one of these notes, and I want you to write 1. And obviously the downside to this is that if they put 1 here, then we got nowhere to go. But then you can show them, that's an opportunity to show them something else, which is like, hey, there's actually a type of note that's longer than that, which goes like this. Ooh. And so, then that would be 2. So, but, if they do that, then there's always a place to go. So let's say, all right, let's pick, this is going to be 1. Okay, that means this has to be 2, and this has to be 4. Okay, so that means that if I did this, and then this, then what we're going to do on the piano, and you can play this, or, you can play this or you can sing it, and it would go te, te, ta, te, te, ta, right? Twice as long. And so, and then you can always change it, practice the different combinations, put 1 over here. What if this is 1? And so, then when you actually introduce when you introduce any kind of time signature, you do, let's say 4 over, and you probably have seen something like this, 4 over that. Put the symbol instead of the number. All right, we're saying this is 1. And so if we remember from the chart that we just did, that if this is 1, then that means this is 2, and this is 3. I mean 4. So, fun way to introduce it. Let's move it along. All right. Almost done, and then we can do some questions. So create conjunct and disjunct. I'm just going to go through these a little bit quicker so that, because in case you guys have anything at 12. So create conjunct and disjunct. The idea here is, I know these are fancy words, but conjunct, when they're making a melody, it's specific to melodies again. When they're making a melody, conjunct means that it's movable and, it's singable, and it moves mostly by repeats and steps, so something like this. Disjunct means like all over the piano. Right? So, and we all know that our young beginners love to do that. And so when you directly address the difference, it's really fun for students because it allows them to goof around on the piano while also learning that, oh, well, there's another way. There's a better way. And so it's a silly compromise for those students that are a little bit more goofy, you could say. And you know, I would say I would introduce it just the way that I just introduced it to you. Just play it for them first. Have them listen to that, and so they can really hear the difference. And then a fun little thing you can do is, because to me personally, it sounds like, a human versus a robot. And so the disjunct one sounds more like a robot, and the conjunct one sounds like a human because you could actually sing it. And so we're going to write a piece that is a human battling a robot. So, all right, that's the entrance of the human. Then robot comes. And then you can bounce back and forth. So they really get the idea there. All right, play. And this is our last concept for today. Play, and I know it's silly, but it's fun to introduce as an actual concept, snacks and rewards. And so the idea here is when you're practicing, if you're practicing for a long amount of time, you're going to get tired. And so how do we break up that time so that we don't get tired? I'll tell you myself, when I was back in like college, I lived on goldfish. And that kept me going for when I was practicing. All I had to do was take a bag of goldfish in there and like, all right, I'm going to practice this for 10 minutes, and then guess what? I get to eat some goldfish. Yay, reward. And so it's surprising the effect that a snack can have on the ability to continue. I have this one student who's just, how do I put it politely? She's very young, and she is not quite focused. Let's put it that way. And and the second that I allowed her to, I'm like, all right, once you play this passage 3 times, I'm going to let you draw a picture. And so she drew a picture, and then after she drew that picture, focus was renewed completely. And so she was able to go to the next line of music, do it 3 times. Good, draw a picture. And focus, renewed. She was able to get through an entire page, whereas like before, she could only make it through maybe 1 or 2 lines before she completely burnt out and basically had a temper tantrum. So, and so, try it out yourself, see how it does, and it doesn't. And rewards can be, like I said, you can just draw a picture or something. Obviously, I would recommend not messy foods so that you don't have to like waste any time going and washing your hands or anything like that. How often depends on the age. For older students, it would be like 50 minutes of playing, 10 minutes of break. For younger students, it could just be, like I said, like a line or 2 and then a break, that kind of thing. So I know I have a little less time for questions today, but we still have like 5 minutes. And so, and then just remember an assignment. I want you to take one of the things that we went over today, even if it's something that you already know, and just kind of like do it again in your lessons. Just if it's something remind yourself that it works. If it's something new, try it out and see how it goes, and then tomorrow just let me know. So, all right, let's go to, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to go to, really quick, yeah, little plug. If you want to help me come up with programs like this, please consider donating. And now I'm going to go back and go to some questions. Do we have questions? Okay. Here's the original sound. I feel it only happens in Popmatics. Lighting the piano on fire. Yeah, campfire. No, but not literally, but we've used a photograph of that. Yes. All right, I like using FGAB for a Mixolydian sound. Yeah, so modes, you're already getting exposed to modes in here, and you'll notice that as I don't know if I get to this in level one, but you'll notice that key signature, I introduced key signature basically through the idea of modes. Um, and yeah, I love the idea of modes being like an intro to, you could say, harder scales. So mainly do GAB, then throw in the F. Yeah. What is the purpose of singing letters, James? Yes. So James, the purpose of singing letters, as opposed to other types of singing. Um, I mean, so singing, it's basically singing letters is the equivalent. Let's say it's the equivalent to give you a short answer. It's the equivalent of fixed dough, but it's better than fixed dough. And now I do also have a movable dough system that's incorporated into this method, but I use numbers for that. Now the problem with fixed dough that I'm trying to solve with solfege is basically, I don't like singing C sharp, but I like singing the letters. And so it's a solution to that issue in particular. That's really the main reason. There's a bunch of other reasons I could probably get into, but like, if I want to sing a D major scale on letters, it would be, da ya fe ja la, easier singing than D E F sharp G A, and it also helps the student to, because if you sing F sharp, then that's actually two notes, right? So if you sing fe, that's one note, so it more accurately represents what's on the page. There's theories out there that fixed dough helps you to establish like better relative pitch or something like that. I don't know how much I believe that. It has helped me maybe a little bit. So like I can guess a little bit more closely where like G is ja, fixed dough solfege for that. Why not use fixed dough solfege for that? Yeah, because well, and it's internationally accepted because I'm a revolutionary. I put up a fight. I don't use fixed dough because fixed dough, eventually you're going to have to make the transition to letters, and so this is an easier transition to letters. Dough doesn't remind me of C at all. Everyone knows letters, and so like with the solfege, it's that sa is C, and so it's like you're already starting to make that connection. Um, And then, as far as I know, with fixed dough, also there's like there can be there's like it doesn't and I might not be 100% right, but I'm pretty sure in fixed dough, isn't it like fa is F and F sharp or something like that? Like fa can mean two different notes, whereas like in the solfege, like there's very clearly like two different syllables for um, the normal for natural and sharp. Um, I would love to get into a heated debate about this, but just for the sake of time, I'm gonna stop there. Those are my basic reasons. Um, so okay, why? Let's see. Yeah, why solfege and not just solfege? Is yesterday? Yes, and yesterday's recording is available, or maybe you can summarize. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, a lot of questions about that, and yeah, and I will say, okay, so that's the only question. And if there's any other questions, feel free to ask it. I will say one last thing about the solfege in that, yes, that is the fact that it is internationally accepted that this other system and just like regular letter names, that is a little bit of a problem because like and I went over this yesterday, but if a student comes in from their regular music class and they're used to any other kind of system, then it can be difficult to sort of convince them to try something else. But my hope is that, um, I got big dreams, so I just hope that it becomes more internationally recognized, so that way I don't have this problem of like, trying to change somebody over from a different system. Um, but that's the risk you run when you do something really really new is you have to convince everyone. So, all right, yes, in traditional European solfege. Oh, about the changing. Yeah, Nadia Boulanger introduced her own vert. Okay, awesome. Well, I learned something new today. I'll have to check that out. Cool. All right, well, if there's no other questions, then that's it for today. And hopefully, I see all your smiling faces tomorrow again. And for day 3, and we got more stuff to go over. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks again for everyone for coming. Bye now.
Thanks.
Bye. Thanks.
Mhm.